Zelensky returns from Washington with hope as Putin pours scorn on American arms.
The former Vice President of the European Parliament, Eva Kaili, who's at the centre of the Qatargate scandal, will be held in detention for another month, ruled a Belgian court. Turkey still refuses to lift its veto on Sweden joining NATO after Stockholm's Supreme Court blocked the extradition of a journalist Ankara accuses of terrorism.
Inflation blamed as pay disputes halt French trains and see British paramedics on picket lines.
Nice to see you. How are you?
How are you? Thank you so much. Thank you for meeting.
Back from Washington, Volodymyr Zelensky held a warm meeting with Polish President Andrzej Duda before recording the daily message for his own citizens. We are coming back from Washington with good results, with something that will really help. When we say patriots in Ukraine and in the United States, we equally mean the protection of the state and people. The issue has been resolved for Ukraine. There is also financial support. There are other agreements. We will talk about them later. Putin, for his part, used a formal news conference to pour scorn on both the agreement and the American weapons system. As far as the Patriots are concerned, it's a pretty old system and it doesn't work like, say, our S-300. Well, nevertheless, I mean, those who oppose us are proceeding on the assumption that it's supposedly a defensive weapon. All right, we'll just keep that in mind. And an antidote can always be found. So those who do this, they do it in vain. It only drags out the conflict. That's all it is. Russian Defense Ministry pictures purportedly showing Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu visiting forward positions amid Moscow's claims the front line remains stable and well supplied for a long fight through 2023.
The city of Chernihiv in northern Ukraine has faced electricity blackouts since the earliest days of the war. Now local electricians Maxim and Anatoly are working to repair the damage. We're using new wires and what remains. We're reconstructing the line because it was very damaged. We're doing everything to ensure that everything comes back to normal, at least as it was before, or even better. In March, Chernihiv was besieged by Russian troops. It was liberated a month later, but the damage remains. Even when it came back for 5 minutes, it was fine. Maybe someone could charge their phone. I came home one day and my grandson was there. War or no war, he needed the phone. And he's like, "Grandpa," and then he jumps up in my arms and says, "Thanks, Grandpa, there's a light." And 2 minutes later, it goes out. It brought a tear to my eye. For weeks now, Russian shelling has targeted civilian energy infrastructure across Ukraine in what's been described as a weaponization of winter.
With reforms that inspired...
Greek politician and former Vice President of the European Parliament, Eva Kaili, will be held in detention for another month, following a decision by a court in Belgium.
That even European companies...
Kaili is suspected of being at the center of one of the EU's biggest corruption scandals, and her lawyers had requested her release from prison with an electronic tracking device. Her legal team has now 24 hours to appeal this decision. Kaili has been in custody since the 9th of December with her partner Francesco Giorgi, who is also jailed. The two are suspected of working together, along with others, to funnel bribes from Qatar and Morocco to parliamentarians in exchange for influence on EU policy.
And I have convened an extraordinary...
Qatar has strongly denied these allegations, while Morocco has yet to respond. The scandal came to public attention earlier this month after police launched more than 20 raids across Belgium and Italy. Hundreds of thousands of euros were recovered at a home and in a suitcase at a hotel in Brussels.
Turkey is yet to lift its veto on Sweden's bid for NATO membership.
Sweden's Supreme Court provoked Turkish anger by blocking the extradition on Monday of a journalist Ankara implicates in a failed 2016 coup attempt.
If we are to be NATO allies, we need to see concrete cooperation in the fight against terrorism. But our talks continue in a constructive way. The recent rejection of the extradition decision of Kenes has unfortunately seriously poisoned this atmosphere.
His Swedish counterpart said that constitutional changes will make it easier to prosecute terrorist activities starting in January.
I would like to underline that, as I stated, we take our commitments seriously. Sweden has an independent judiciary, and all cases are reviewed through that independent judiciary.
Sweden and Finland broke with decades of military non-alignment and applied to join the US-led defense alliance in response to Russia's February invasion of Ukraine. Turkey and Hungary are the only NATO members yet to ratify the Nordic neighbors' applications. Turkey has held up the process while pressing the two countries to crack down on groups it considers to be terrorist organizations such as Kurdish militants.
An estimated 1,500 Kosovan Serbs have demonstrated in the north of the country against what they claim is the partisan rule of Prime Minister Albin Kurti. The peaceful protest was over alleged discriminatory policing and arbitrary arrests, which they say are creating a climate of terror for ethnic Serbs in Kosovo. Our demands to the international community are very clear, said Dalibor Jevtic, former Minister for Communities in the government of Kosovo. It must stop Kurti from the violence he's perpetrating. The Kosovo government accuses Serb nationalists of stoking up tensions. On Sunday, nationalists from Serbia sought to force their way across the border. Belgrade has asked for its forces to be allowed to protect the Kosovan Serb community.
An unofficial strike by rail ticket inspectors in France, where inflation is 6%, means cancellation for a third of SNCF services this weekend. Staff are reportedly unhappy with a 12% pay deal. Passengers are using car shares or coaches instead. Christmas plans disrupted by industrial action. British paramedics are planning a second walkout on December the 28th. In England and Wales, NHS staff have been offered an average 4.5% wage hike. Inflation is 9.3%. Ambulance staff aren't the only ones striking. Further industrial action is planned by Border Force officers, Heathrow baggage handlers and postal workers in the UK's winter of pay discontent. Austrians are buying smaller Christmas gifts or skipping them altogether this year. The country's trade association says spending on presents is down 15% on last year.
Because everything has become expensive, I buy something small for my children, nothing big.
Elmira's bills for energy and housing have more than doubled in recent months. Originally from Ukraine, the mother of six is one of many who depends on financial support from NGOs due to inflation.
Betroffen sind insbesondere Alleinerzieherinnen.
Single parents, primarily women, are particularly affected. Also those who have little income, including, of course, many migrants who often have jobs with lower salaries.
Familien, die hier auch schlechte Jobs haben mit geringer Bezahlung.
The slow Christmas business is causing long faces in the retail sector. Industry representative Rainer Will warns of rising unemployment. On the one side, retail expenses are exploding, and on the other side, revenues are declining because purchasing power is failing to materialize. We simply have to optimize by reducing branches, and 1/3 of retailers will reduce staff. In order to relieve the population, Austria's government has spent spent billions on anti-inflation measures. However, economists criticise that the money has not been distributed in a targeted way. High incomes would even benefit more than low incomes. Johannes Pleshberger, Euronews, Vienna.